Roguetech, tread not. Welcome to our Roguetech guide on difficulty settings. We're going to go first into the TLDR in regards to difficulty, and then we're going to jump into more specifics and some of the numbers. So generally speaking, difficulty is what the game uses to generate your opposing force. It is given to you in the form of skulls in your contracts. So if you look underneath Command Center, you'll see underneath the contract, this is a 4-skull difficulty mission. There is a skull rating, and then there's the difficulty rating. The difficulty rating is 1 through 10 for the skulls, and then it goes further. It'll go all the way up to 31 plus. So for every half skull is 1 difficulty. Okay, so this is a difficulty 8 mission, 4 skulls. Simple math, divide it in half. So you can judge how difficult a mission is going to be for you when you go into negotiate and you pick, like for example, if I accept this contract and I start to drop units down in here, it'll give me a number which will tell me what my skull rating is. So in this particular case, here are my 8 mechs that I potentially will drop, and it's saying that this group is rated at a difficult rating of 11. Not 1, 11. Difficulty is given to you by scale from 1 to 10 in colors. Green is 1 to 10, red is 11 through 20, pink is 21 through 30, and purple is 31 and above. So this is one of the most common things people will get confused about when they are doing this, playing this game, is they'll see this and this and they'll think this is an easier mission, and it is not an easier mission. This is more difficult than the one above it, and it will kick your ass if you're not prepared for it. How do you get difficulty ratings in this game? There are 2 things that will give you the difficulty rating. In your initial setup, when you do your Roguetech configuration, you will receive this configuration screen, and I'm doing this as of Roguetech Dreadnought 1.1.10.7. You will see up the very top here, it says choose the difficulty scaling. You can choose difficulty by company strength, which scales according to the cost of your mechs, not the tonnage, and a difficulty by planet rating. These are the 2 different ways you can judge this. If you want an experience of lore, then the map has difficulty settings set per planet according to Roguetech or according to BattleTech lore. So we go back into here and we look at the navigation screen. We're going to be able to see the Roguetech map, and if we click on any particular planet, we'll see how difficult it is. We are currently sitting on a difficulty 10 world. I think we've got a difficulty like a 13 over here. This is harder because remember, it's red, not green. Green, red, pink, purple. So in this particular planet that we're sitting on, we've got a difficulty 10. And I picked that because of some variance. So let's start getting into some more detail. That's the general concept around your difficulty. So you pick it based off of your configuration screen as to whether or not you go by planet or company. The next thing you're going to end up picking is when you get in your settings, when you're first kicking off, you're going to have some options to change the difficulty setting. This difficulty is just how hard your gameplay is going to be, not how hard your missions are going to be. That's judged by this contract and difficulty variance. So if I drop on a planet that has a 10 difficulty rating, and I choose 0, all my missions are going to be 10 difficulty, period. If I choose a variance, it'll change by half skulls or 1 difficulty rating. So here at 2, that means that all of my missions on a planet are going to vary plus or minus 2. So I should see difficulty 8 through 12 missions. So if I go back into my command center, we're going to see that the difficulty ratings here go from 8 to 12. In fact, it's going up a little bit higher. It's going up to 13 here. So there's a little bit about variance that you could see above or below that. But that's what you're going to see. You can see a plus or minus 2. So it's 10 to 12 or 10 to 8. So it's 8 to 12 is the range that you should expect to see in missions here. The next thing you're going to want to take a look at is if you have it set by company difficulty, when you drop on a mission like this one, I'll pick a nice easy one here. Let's say I go here. I want a nice easy experience, or so I think. And I'm going to go ahead and do this accept. And it's going to populate the last group that I was using, which is the game feels as difficulty rating of 11 right there. So that means I am difficulty 3 higher. I have a 1.5 skull higher number here. What does that mean as far as my current engagement? Typically, you're going to run into one lance and possibly a support lance, but there's variance in that, and that variance comes in the form of this spreadsheet. So if I drop on a difficulty 10 mission here, with my rating of 11, actually it was a difficulty 8 mission with 11, right there, I have a 1.24 chance to have 2 lances instead of 1. So now I have 2 primary lances I need to kill. In addition, I'm looking for support lances down here, 8, 11. I have a 62% chance of having 2 support lances. If I don't roll that, I have 1 support lance. So the way I read this, you're looking at how many extra guys you're going to do this. This is the way difficulty ramps in Roguetech. The first thing, especially when you're down on this side of the chart, the first thing it'll do is it'll start to increase both tonnage and quality. Tonnage is not really a good judge of difficulty. What's in the tonnage is there could be a 100-ton Mackie that is much easier to kill than a 75-ton Marauder with good gear. So there is a tooltip that says that a well-armed light can kill a poorly armed assault. It is true. So don't just look at the tonnage you're running against. What's in those mechs is going to be what's more difficult. And there's over 400 builds, if I remember right, for mechs that you could encounter that have a variety of difficulty, including pilots that have superhuman capabilities. One of the things that Roguetech will do to increase its difficulty for you is put you up against not only mechs with higher quality gear in it, but it'll put pilots in it that have skill sets that are equivalent or even exceeds your own, including exceeding what is possible for you. So you could run into guys who have a max health of 10 points, where your max health, with everything in there, is probably 7-ish. That's 5 for your pilot skill and another couple of points for the stuff that you put in, like a Solaris cage. So keep in mind that your difficulty may be that you're going against is going to be higher because the game is going to tweak things in its favor simply because the AI can't do things the player can. It will also add lances, and every lance is up to either 2 or 3 or 4 mechs. So count on it being 4. So in this particular case, I could be running into 4 lances of 4 mechs or 16 mechs. It is possible to get as high as 20 mechs on a drop. In the attack defend mission, it drops with 1 defending lance, 1 assault lance, and up to 3 random drops. So you have 5 lances in there already, and if you change the difficulty, it could add an additional lance or 2 in there as well. So you could be up to 7 lances you have to go through, and you will definitely run into some endurance problems. So this chart here gives you an idea of the variance on how many things you're going to run into. So when you see difficulty 21 type missions, you're guaranteed to run into at least 4 lances of mechs. So you're going to run against 16 mechs. In addition to that, one of the other things it will do is it looks at that difference, and the spawner will generate your opposing force when you land. It doesn't figure it out before that. At this point, the game doesn't know what it's going to send at you. It doesn't do that until you actually go for the landing, and then it will go through the spawner, pick out all the mechs it's going to run you against and play against that. There are other difficulty items that you will run into in Roguetech. One of them is, do you include super heavies? And I am curious, do I have that on that screen? Down here. You can add your DLCs, but there's additional pieces further down where you can add more difficulty, and it's underneath here in the select era section. I don't have a picture of it, but that's where it's going to tell you that you can add things in like super heavies, experimental mechs, nukes, things like that. The super heavies, if you put in super heavies, they do not get added to the random spawn pool. So when I drop on a mission that's a high difficulty mission, it does not mean that there will be a super heavy in there potentially. The only place you can find super heavies are on super heavy specific missions. There's like 5 of them. And if you read your encounter carefully, it will tell you what you can expect to run into. So if we come back here and we see this, read these descriptions carefully. Each mission type does have a set of submissions, and they're all listed with the description. And if you get familiar with those descriptions, you'll get a feel for what you're going to run into. So, for example, if you run into, I don't think I've got an ambush convoy, but if you get an ambush convoy or an escort mission, you will have 1 lance of vehicles in there. You can count on the vehicles. Otherwise, you're not really sure what you're going to run into. Here, this is a battle in an urban environment. This is a generic description. So what we talked about before applies. I'm going to have a lance that I'm going to have to go fight. I'm probably going to have a support lance in behind it. And based on the difficulty here, I'm probably going to have another lance. So I probably have 12 mechs that I'm going to have to kill on this mission to complete it. So that's the whole thing in a nutshell. But keep in mind, the ratings, first of all, when you pick in the beginning, a difficulty between planet and company makes a difference. If you pick company, the planetary difficulty doesn't matter. If you pick company, when you drop, it will build a opposing force based on the mechs the value of the mechs that you drop. So if I can drop 4 mechs and I drop 2 million credits worth of mechs, it'll build a 2 million credit mech force to go against, then varied by the difficulty difference between myself and them. If you pick planet, it won't do that. It's going to take the planet difficulty and it's going to throw it at you. So if you go into a planet with a 1 difficulty group and you decide to land on a difficulty 11 because you didn't pay attention to the color, you're going to get stomped. This game doesn't care. Roguetech does not care about your feelings. It will stomp on them happily if you give it its chance. It will do you in. It doesn't exactly cheat, but it does throw stuff at you. For example, in BattleTech, if you hit 4 times in a row, the game in the background will start to add a minus to your hit chance so that you will miss. It will force you to miss eventually. Likewise, if you keep taking the 1% chance to hit, you keep missing, it will in the background give you a bonus to hit, so you will eventually hit. This is to give you that sense like things are fair when you just you roll and you miss, you roll and you miss. You eventually hit and you're like, oh, okay, well, statistically speaking, I got it. Statistics doesn't play like that. If you know XCOM, you will know the feeling of always missing your 99% chances in a row. I have a 98% chance and I missed it 3 times in a row. What the hell? Well, that's just the way statistics does tend to run. And so in this game, in the Roguetech, they took away that normalization in the background. You can miss 98%, 3, 4, 5, 20 times in a row because the dice just rolled that way. So that's the game of Roguetech. It is meant to be difficult. It is meant to be tough. You are supposed to play smart, and if you don't, it will spank you. And this is at least one way that you can try to avoid that spanking by looking at the difficulty ratings and judging what it is that you can do to drop. Now, in a slightly more advanced statement, we've seen that when I look here and I go for a negotiate and I drop my crew is coming in as difficulty 11. It lies. because there's a couple of weapons in the game that are skewed in difficulty. And in specific, I'll look at the bull shark here. There is a weapon, the Gauss rifle, the HA, high assault Gauss, hyper assault Gauss rifle. Basically, it's a shotgun, and the game doesn't take into account its full damage potential. So in this particular thing, you can see that my damage is 200 with that one. I have another 200 down here. No, 150, so that's 350. And I think you're running Snubnose. 350, 410 points. If I look at my damage rating, however, it thinks I can only do 130 points of damage with this mech. And that's skewing my difficulty. So in this way, I could drop a more effective mech force on a group, and the spawner won't throw an equivalent mass at me. So I am skewing the results in my favor. That's a little tip and trick if you stuck it all the way to the end. Hyper Gauss, any of these ones that have a triple value, 10 times 5 times 3, don't get calculated correctly. And at some point, I'm sure it'll get fixed. But there you go. Thank you again for joining me. If you stuck in with this guide, come back and join me for some of my normal gameplay. You can see this stuff actually in action. Take care. Bye-bye.
Creeping through the shadows and the corners of your mind. I go with the windows. I run but I don't hide. I hear the call of the wild, whispering the name. No, I can't be tamed. My heart belongs to the night. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. 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 I'm a